So we had the microphone muted. I'll start with the summary slide again. Apologies. So we're still expecting a significant ice event. Not as much certainty as we were thinking this time yesterday. I'm going to show you in some slides coming up why that is. The decrease in uncertainty is a little bit greater when you're looking at the Atlanta metro area and areas east. Over northwest parts of the state, it still looks like we're going to see ice. That confidence, if anything, may have increased a little bit in northwest Georgia, along the Alabama border in particular, down to west central Georgia. It should still start as sleet or freezing rain and changing to freezing rain sometime around 7 a.m. or so through mid-morning, and we're still seeing signs that the temperatures are going to warm above freezing in the afternoon, maybe even late morning. So we should see a change over to all rain and light rain at that by midday to afternoon. So it could linger in the far north or northeast corner of the state. We're still uncertain about exactly when that might happen, but it should be going above freezing even there by later in the afternoon. With the storm system moving to our south, and I have a slide that will explain that coming up, we are going to see enough to cause some travel problems. So especially in north and west Georgia, we are looking at a travel impact. But with the amounts I'll show you in a map in a minute, probably not enough to bring down a lot of trees or power lines. So why is this happening? Why did our forecast change? This is a map that shows the storm track on the computer forecast that we had been looking at prior to yesterday afternoon and last night. The storm track was expected to bring go right over South Georgia, basically through that Sunday, Monday time frame. With a track that close to us and a little more intense, we would have seen precipitation over North Georgia and much of East Georgia, and we had a classic wedge pattern setting up that I think Keith talked about yesterday. But what's changed is sometime around Friday night, a lot of the computer forecasts starting shifting it well south, and it's unusual to see a shift that far south in one cycle, a 12-hour period when our computers get more information. The reason why we think that happened is probably because the storm system is just now moving on to the west coast. So when we got our runs this morning, it was getting a lot better idea of where the winds were, where the storm was. So this forecast may be the one that ends up correct. We don't see much chance of this forecast flipping back to the north, but we're going to keep watching it. The forecast that was going to occur, I indicated there, freezing rain and sleet. That's with that green track that we were expecting, but with the new track that we've got now, it kind of keeps it to the west, and it's a little bit harder to get precipitation over East Georgia with this pattern. So the computer forecasts we're seeing that just came in, they kind of look like that. All three of them that I'm showing here on the screen are taking the storm system into the Gulf. There's still a chance, a northern branch of this storm, that green computer model, it could bring some precipitation a little more heavy into North Georgia. That's the European model. But with the time frame it moving in, it's indicating mostly rain. It has temperatures in the mid to upper 30s, even in the mid-morning hours with that computer forecast. So things may be working out in our favor here. All right, here's a map that Keith showed yesterday. It's a little different. If you can remember, we had higher probabilities of freezing rain. Now this is only for a hundredth of an inch or more. This isn't like ice storm criteria or anything like that, even a tenth of an inch. This is just for a coating of ice at all, hundredth of an inch, maybe on trees and stuff. The blue coloring here is indicating 40 to 50%. And that's really restricted on this map onto northwest Georgia in the very corner of the state. Over the rest of the area, where the bulk of that area we're worried about impacts, it's down to 20%. So this is quite a bit lower than the probabilities we were showing yesterday. And if you wanted to break that down on that same map, I really like what Keith showed yesterday. This is one of our computer models. It does 21 individual forecasts. 16 of those are still showing some sort of freezing rain tomorrow morning, Monday morning around 7. But it's not 100% anymore. Yesterday at this time, I think almost all of them were showing something in northwest Georgia. Now we're showing some that aren't showing any, but the bulk of them are. And as far as further east, the Atlanta metro, northeast Georgia, Gainesville, and those areas, excuse me, the probabilities are closer to 30%. And that's just from this one computer. Don't worry about the exact percentages here, but it's just highlighting that trend where the uncertainty is increasing from this time yesterday about exactly where and how much ice we would get. So to break it all down, I didn't want to take up too much time and give you more chance for questions. The time frame is a little bit later for onset. I've got it coming in more like 6 a.m., at least for the Atlanta metro area. It could be earlier than that, like 2 to 3 in the morning in northwest Georgia, up there near Rome, Dalton, Trenton. Most likely time frame for Atlanta would be 8 to 11 a.m. After 11 or noon, things will be improving. Even though there could be precipitation lingering, we're expecting that to change to rain. That's the plan. The temperatures you see on the screen are what we're expecting at 7 a.m. It's still quite cold. Temperatures, even especially up there in Blairsville, we've got lower 20s indicated now. But in most areas, it's below freezing until you get to, say, LaGrange, Columbus, Americus, and even Dublin. It looks like we've got temperatures near there. There shouldn't be much precip in southeast Georgia or southeast central Georgia, or Macon for that matter. But areas to the north and west, below freezing temperatures and some light precipitation expected. So here's the ice accumulation forecast we're going out with. We've only got about 100th or 200th in the Atlanta metro, a little bit more when you go out towards Carrollton and Rome and west central Georgia. And the only areas we're seeing potential for greater than a tenth would be that far northwest part of the state. When you break it down by liquid equivalent, to kind of show you we're expecting that change to rain even in northwest Georgia, that's the total we're looking at. If for some reason we could get heavier precipitation in the morning, maybe we could get higher ice amounts. So impacts, I've got a map here with that same temperature image. This is similar to what we saw yesterday. I did change some of the wording on the screen on the right. Not as much impacts really at all for, for trees and power lines. Maybe in that northwest part of the state, like I said, if we get closer to 2/10 is where you might see some problems. Right now we got around a tenth to just a little bit more than that. Improvement by 10 a.m. in the green areas, maybe by midday. I should have drawn that white area as far as improvement in Blairsville. Those areas could be early afternoon for improvement. So we've only got one more briefing scheduled, a webinar. We may have, I didn't put it on the screen here, we may, because of the uncertainty and some last minute decisions, if we had another briefing, it might be Monday morning, and it might be a phone call. This could be early in the morning to give some time for those making last minute decisions, especially in the northwest part of the state. It might be like, say, 4 in the morning, Monday morning. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that before I wrap up. I'm just going to show, we are going to continue the email updates, but I just want to throw that out there. We could, with the later time frame, we could do something early Monday morning. So again, uncertainty, we're not really having a good handle on where and how much ice we're going to see, especially when you get east of the Atlanta area and the Atlanta area itself. There's a chance we could see almost nothing, very light, almost no precipitation at all. One of our computer models pretty much just showed light radar echoes with no accumulating precipitation, but the vast majority of the others are showing at least something coming in Monday morning. Should move over to northwest third by midday before changing to rain. We're expecting mostly freezing rain through the event. There could be some sleet mixed in, no real chance of snow. Transitions to rain should be done even by early afternoon or mid-afternoon of that far northeast part of the state or north central. And it's mostly expected to be a travel impact. So questions at this time, I'll take that. If you're on the microphone, I think you can chime in here.